the show as I go one-on-one with Andrew Denton. He stole my notes. I was about to say I can't say that. I'm stuffed. No. Andrew, don't be nervous. I suppose the first question I was going to say why the Rabbitohs, but why Rugby League? You know, what made you fall in love with the game and give it so much time and energy?
I'm a physical man, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously, body contact, violence is what I'm about. And, so it was the game that suited me. And, you know, any game that can take someone like Brian Fletcher, who in any other society would be in a prison, and make him into a semi-respectable man, almost walking upright, is my game.
Yeah. You're a massive South man. And was there a moment or a player that made you fall in love with the Bunnies?
Oh, look, you know, like a lot of kids, I started supporting them when I was 8, so who knows why you start supporting. But there was and the year I started supporting them, they lost to Balmain. So it was a bad start.
69?
69, that's right. So, but they were that great team in the early 60s. And for me, the player was Paul Sate, because he played every position. He played front row, he played second row, lock, centre, 5/8. He played everywhere. And he was just a tough and skillful bugger. And I loved him for that, because he could do everything.
Andrew, let's go back to that period where South were booted out of the competition, dark days for the Bunnies. You gave so much of yourself to get them back in. The fight, the struggle, the march. What do you remember from that time?
Oh, a lot of stuff. There was a lot of fear around that time. But I think the two things I most remember, I was on Triple M at the time, and I remember getting a letter from a North supporter, because there were a bunch of clubs thrown out. Yeah. And I've never forgotten this letter. He said, my brother was buried in his North Sydney jersey. His brother had died quite young. And that was... The people that tried to destroy the game at that time, tear it apart, didn't understand what the stories of football meant. And the other thing was that first march, because nobody knew what was going to happen. And that was the biggest march in Australia since the Vietnam War. And I remember we all assembled at South's Leagues Club. Yep. And we had no idea how many people were going to turn up. And I was sort of one of the people towards the front. We got to the town hall in George Street. And it was only when I got up the steps and looked back, and as far as you could see, the clubs of the flags of every club. It was an extraordinary thing. And that was really the moment where News Limited, as they were then, kind of lost the battle, because they'd lost in the court of public opinion, and they were never going to win it.
What was it for you? What was a greater moment? Winning the 2014 Premiership or winning the struggle to get South back in?
Well, I think the 2014 Premiership was actually, you know, I was only slightly taller than I am now when they last won a Premiership. I was just a little kid. That was such an emotional moment, to be in that ground, to see grown men and women crying. I've actually never experienced that kind of mass emotion before, so that's hard to beat. But obviously, if we hadn't got back in the comp, we would never have had that moment.
Your show, Interview, coming up shortly.
Clever title, isn't it?
In a couple of weeks.
You see what we're doing.
Very interesting. I see what you've done.
Yeah. That's why I'm on the big money.
There you are. Yeah. What about some of the guests? Who have you got lined up?
Look, I don't want to give away too much, but first show.
Yep.
And this is exclusive to you.
Yep.
Donald Trump.
Wow.
Stormy Daniels.
Great.
But, and this is the big one, we're leading with Daryl Braithwaite. So
fantastic! You've got to get him closing with horses.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Over the years, you've interviewed so many people. You've done some great interviews, enough for open. Yeah. What interview are you most proud of?
Well, it's not one that a lot of people actually loved, but it was Alan Bond. And it was the longest and most contested interview I've ever done. We actually went for about 2.5 hours. It's the only time in my career we had cameras outside the studio, because we thought he was going to walk. And why I'm proud of it is because it showed a fraud for the fraud he was. And this was a guy that ripped off thousands of ordinary Australians, literally took their money from them. And I got a lot of shit from people saying, how dare you speak to Alan Bond that way? But I'm proud of showing a fraud for being a fraud. And it pisses me off that we still think of him as Bondy, the America's Cup hero.
Larrikin. He
was a robber.
Most difficult interview?
This one right now isn't going very well. But you know that.
I must say, I saw you interview Michael Stipe.
Yeah.
REM, who is notorious for being probably the most difficult interview. What What process did you go through to get him to open up?
Well, Michael Stipe is tricky. He's a very weird dude in a good way. But we always do a lot of research. When I say we, it's not just me. There's a whole team. And we worked out that this guy, he's a very, very visual guy. So we did something... how he got into music, the story was that he'd stayed up late one night listening to Patti Smith's Horses over and over and over again, and he just ate cherries. That's his story. So we actually got a record player, we got Patti Smith's Horses, we got a bowl full of cherries, and we bought that out. We gave him a visual cue to sort of get it, and you could see him go, wow, nobody's ever gone to that much trouble before. So he started to relax, and we just kept giving him visual stuff. I remember we bought out a funnel web in a jar. I can't remember why. I think we were just trying to kill him. It's just, we kept giving him visual stuff, and that kind of took him away from... He didn't like being on those kind of shows. And his manager told us afterwards he'd never seen him so relaxed on an interview. So he turned out to be a great guest.
Andrew, if I gave you control of the NRL for 1 hour, what's the one decision you would make? Lasting decision for the game?
Easy. One round is mullet round.
Yep.
Every player has to wear a mullet, have a wig as a mullet, a Kevin Hardwick mullet. I think that's what the crowds want to see. I know that's what I want to see, yeah.
Well, Andrew, thank you very much. No. Thanks for going.
Matty, sorry. Yep. You've asked me questions. I'd like to ask you...
I'm happy to go on your show if you want.
Yeah, again, Joey's number. But, I'll obviously, try and fill your show as best I can. So, first question... We always hear about the courage of footballers, etc., etc. Who were you genuinely scared of when you were playing?
I think as a player, Andrew, the main fear is humiliation. No one made me feel more inadequate than Ricky Stewart.
Really?
Ricky Stewart was such a brilliant player on the field. And it's sort of history, forget that. You look at Ricky the coach, but he was such a brilliant player. I think one of the greatest tacticians the game has seen. And whenever I played against he and those Raiders sides, I always walked off the field thinking to myself, I'm not going to make it, particularly when I was a young player. So
you were playing against Ricky. Were you self-conscious about what you were doing because, oh, my God, Ricky's there?
It's Ricky. And the way he controlled things, I could never, ever see myself being able to do that, and never could.
No. You didn't actually have to say that, but thank you. OK, second question. I've got 3 questions for you. Second question. You're the halves coach for... backline coach for Souths, for Melbourne, for... Is it the Titans? Who else are you...
Do a little bit...
and Newcastle.
Yes.
OK, so that's 4. How do you coach, say, Souths, halves and backline... without giving away what Melbourne are doing, or vice versa? Basically what I'm saying is you're a whore.
Yes. My reputation precedes me. Andrew, a lot of that gets overstated. What I acted, like the game's been really good to me. Like it's been unbelievably good. So I say with different clubs, I have no official duty. I say if you want to bounce an idea off, that's the extent.
Yeah, but I know you've taken the South squad for. You've taken all these guys for.
I have a couple of rules. Number one is they've got to come to me. I don't go to them. I don't like the bullshit of football clubs, but I say, you come down to my park, down at Collaroy, let's do it. And the other rule is I don't take any money. I do it for free. And the reason that doesn't compromise me, Andrew, so that I can come... And the rule is I say to the coaches, I'll take no money as long as I can say, you're shit.
Yeah.
When you are.
Answered the question. You haven't, which is, how do you keep the Chinese wall between the different teams? How do you stop...
No, I just pass the secrets over.
Oh, really?
No, but you do. Every team's different, and you work. Every player's got their different strengths.
Yeah.
And you sort of just... A lot of times, I think, with young halves in particular, Andrew, they just need sometimes someone to talk to.
Yeah.
Sort out their heads. All halves are neurotic.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
Last question, serious question. All the stuff we've just seen with Steve Smith over the last 10 days. About 10 years ago, you went through a not dissimilar process. The Four Corner stuff, the public shame for you. Watching what's happening to Steve Smith now, what advice would you give him to get through this, to get to the other side?
Andrew, I would say that if you've got a PR team, sack them immediately. Just take responsibility and be honest. And I think he's done that. Bloody tough question for you, Andrew.
Andrew. Matty, it's a pleasure.
No, it's a pleasure coming on tonight. I really appreciate it.
Right.